My name is Lawrence Zidyana. I'm actually of Malawian heritage, so Zidyana should be Zidyana, but growing up in Zimbabwe is just Zidyana, so Lawrence Zidyana is my name, yeah. I was born in 1977. I was born in Chitungwiza, which is it was established as a dormitory town for Harare, for the capital city. It's about, say, 15 miles from the capital. Yeah, that's where I was born, grew up there, yeah, until I got here. Growing up in Zimbabwe, I think it was good fun. It was quite adventurous. I felt like there were loads of things to do. I'm sure by the age that, we didn't have games and things like that. Well, we had our own games, like we play in the street, go out in the forest and things. Yeah, it was like we're never worried about stuff because we were kids, right? But I had like a core group of friends. Luckily, I went to high school with them as well, like a primary and high school with them. Just the same group. They're all my neighbors as well. So yeah, I grew up. I had excellent memories, except for the one thing that I had epilepsy when I was about 8 years old. So that made me like sort of withdrawn a lot more. But I was only comfortable with my friends because I'm sure they were worried initially, but when I got into my seizures, it got to be, oh, this is what Lawrence does, and then they'll just take me home. So it just like I was fine with that small group of people, but elsewhere outside, I would be quiet and so worried about like something's going to happen. And also, we used to go to church a lot. The usual thing, the Sunday school. Yeah, we went to church a lot. And my church was, because Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Malawi, they were one country at one time. It was called the Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland at one time. So my grandparents, they emigrated from Malawi to Zimbabwe. So the church I went to was sort of descendants of that generation. So I grew up going to a Malawian church in Zimbabwe, and I spoke Chewa as well. So I was speaking English, I was speaking Shona, and then Chewa, the language spoken in Malawi and parts of Zambia. Well, where we come from, people practice a mix of religion, traditional beliefs, and then there's science, medicine, right? So the first thing we did was I was taken to a local clinic and to hospitals, but then because of the type of epilepsy I had, the kind of seizures I was having, no one knew what it was exactly. So obviously we had to go to other route, the traditional beliefs thing and the church. So it was a mix of all those three things, which was kind of confusing and worrying, because it can happen anytime, and there was no like non-trigger. It could just happen. If I was walking or in class or anything like that. So how we dealt with it, it was just like a mix of everything, just trying to see what works. Even if you don't want to take your child to a witch doctor or to prophets or whatever, the people, the community expects you to do it, right? They will say, I remember one time a doctor told my mom, you know what, maybe you should take the son, go around. Okay, the translation doesn't work well, but what he was suggesting is, take us, go see a witch doctor or something. Do you know what I mean? This is a doctor because they were so stumped, they didn't know what is going on. He suggested that. So the community itself, it expects you to do that, or people will just turn up and say, we've come to pray for Lawrence. I don't know, I think it's because that was normal for me in the end, right? But I think there was, I think the people, like say in my class, people who knew me, it was quite, it wasn't a big deal. But other people now, what I remember is what other people would say to me. That was more hurtful than, yeah. So it's other people who are sort of outside of like I said, I mentioned that group, or even my class. They just, even when I go to high school as well, because it was a lot of new people, because I was in primary school for about 6 years, for 6 years, right? These guys got used to it. And then I went to high school. I only had two other friends in the same high school with me. And to everyone else, it was like, what is this guy about? People were scared of me. I was never bullied because they thought, oh, this guy is, he's possessed, he has demons, or, those kind of things, yeah. So at A levels, I did mathematics, biology, and chemistry. I wanted to become a pharmacist, okay? But I didn't do so well to qualify to get in university because I think there was one university at the time that taught pharmacy, and but the next thing I did was I went to work for a pharmaceutical company. I was doing a role for a pharmacy technician, like we were working with sort of making adjustments to drugs. Like we get different ingredients, like different moisture levels, different strength, and all this and that. So my job was to make calculations, which was quite nice. And I was getting paid a lot as well, for because I went there when I was 20. Loads of money, And I think I was earning more than my oldest brother. He was so shocked. Yeah. I know responsibilities as well, so which was nice. Yeah, so I got into pharmacy. But I think when I was in school, I didn't have. Yeah, I wanted to do pharmacy, but that didn't work out. I just applied, so because I had done maths, biology, maths and chemistry at A levels. I got the role. So the role itself is quite a technical role where there's also a course for that, right? But then they only took 20. The only college that taught it was Harare Polytechnic. It only enrolled 20 students. So a shortcut for the company was to just train me to do that stuff because I'm a clever guy. So yeah. I had a good job. And everything else. But what made me leave Zimbabwe was when it was 2002. I think it would be 20 years on the 2nd of November. So how I decided to leave was because everyone else was leaving, right? So my friends had left. The girl I was dating had left to like 2 months prior. Right? She didn't even tell me. Right, so I was calling her the next day, nothing. And then eventually, I think she had gone through Gatwick immigration then. When I called the mom, said, "Oh no, Lawrence, your girlfriend is going to UK." Yeah, so everyone had just left. And my brother had left, my brothers had left, and my sister had left. I'm like, so what am I doing here? So my brother, first one, he was living in Australia initially. So the plan was for me to join him in Australia, but he didn't like Australia. He didn't like Sydney. He was like, it wasn't. He was one of the very few black people at the time in Sydney, and he didn't enjoy it. Right, so he came to UK after about 2 years. That's when I joined him. So I think when he went to Australia, I wanted to join him then. Because I thought, it would be cool to go to Australia. It's not America, but it's Australia. It's not where everyone goes. But at the time, I think people are leaving for so many different reasons, like the politics, the economy, and because I was lucky to be in a job, right? But although I was getting paid a lot, some of the pay increases were just ridiculous. But when you look back, it was inflation, because inflation was creeping up, right? I was here quite comfortable, but things were just like, a little bit difficult. And once everyone else in your family has left, I felt like, I'm alone. I felt alone. I felt like, one of my friends went to Australia, other one went to New Zealand. So I just just felt like, there's nothing for me. because I felt like it was better to be elsewhere. That's how that was the feeling then. Like, oh, it's better to be elsewhere than be here. That was a primary thing, because I know some people I worked with, they are still with that company, which is quite a long time, but yeah, they're still with that company, because people will always be sick. There's always business in pharmacy. Yeah, all my siblings are here. Right, so it was quite easy for me to say, "Oh, I'm going to leave," and they were like, "Okay," or they will say, "We'll help you leave." You know what I mean? It was like a thing we discussed about, and yeah, so that decision to leave was not a really tough one. It was like the situation just said, "Okay, it makes sense." So my expectations of life in the UK, I thought people were very honest, because because of TV, right? When you're on TV, you see what these programs, the newspapers are outside, or all the fruit is outside, and people pick a fruit and go pay inside. It's like, well, that's very honest. Do you know? Because you'd never do that in Zimbabwe. Well, there's no one watching the stuff. You'd never do that, right? I thought I would have loads of money. You know what I mean? I thought, because at that time I was thinking in the exchange rate, because you think, oh, so if £1 is 100 Zimbabwean dollars, and then it was going up and up and up, right? Yeah, I thought I would have lots of money. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to UK, spend a few years, send money back home, build stuff, and do start a business and stuff like that. But what I've experienced is what I experience and what I appreciate about being in the UK is there's something for everyone. They try to have something for everyone, right? If you want a car, you can buy a car for £200,000 or for £200, right? Or you can buy orange juice for 8p or for a lot more, right? So you sort of find where you fit. This is what kind of thing I appreciate, right? That there's an attempt to have that. Like, say, even broadband, you can get broadband for, I don't know, there's a company that has broadband, cheap broadband, right? Or you can have, super fast broadband from BT or from Virgin. So there's always, there's always something for you, of which that's one thing I appreciate a lot. But to say my expectations have been met, I don't know, because when I look at it, right, I left Zimbabwe when I was 25. I'm 45 now, so I've spent most of my adult years here, right? So my perspective of life as an adult are all in the UK. Although there are links to Zimbabwe, this is mostly in the UK. I fell into debt a lot easily, because you could just open a bank account like, oh, do you want a credit card? Oh yeah, credit card. I've seen this on TV. People just doing that, to pay for stuff, right? Not knowing, I knew you have to pay it back, but it's so easy to fall into debt, to buy things you don't really need. That was my, because we're like, oh, I can have this, I can, because I live in a shared house, and each of us had Sky instead of having one Sky account. You know what I mean? Because you could apply for your own Sky, which was just nuts. When I look at it now, right now, we don't even have Sky, and I don't miss it. I don't miss it. All right, but so I think those first few years I got into, we just like grabbing things a lot. Buy a car, do this. Yeah. So but my expectations, I don't know. I can't, or maybe I forgot what my expectations were at the time. But yeah, I moved here before visas were required for Zimbabweans. Yeah, so we just came. So when all you had to do was have some money with you and say, oh, I'm a tourist, or I've come to spend. So because I had family here, right? So I arrived at the airport, and because at that time there were people who were leaving because they were claiming asylum. So I don't know, maybe half the plane or 2/3 of the plane were set that way. They say, okay, they're seeking asylum. They want to sit that way, and then we just queued up. But at that time, I was 25, and what I think I spent about 5 hours in immigration. Well, we landed at 6 a.m. I left at around 11:30 or midday or something like that, because they kept asking me the same question over and over again, right? But what I learned, what I'm saying is, people my age, young men, 20, 25, they cause trouble a lot, So they tried to find a reason to not to allow me in. So then they allowed me in. I was like, all right, but I was quite confident. Like I'm not like, I don't know. I felt like I'm not going through that asylum process because I wasn't about that, and then let me through. Like I said, I think at the airport I spent about 5 hours in immigration. Yeah, a lot of it was me being set by myself, and then someone else different comes back, asks me the sort of same questions. All right, then they leave, and they come back again. Someone else comes back and say, "Okay, let's go and look at your bag." So my bag, I didn't have a lot of clothes. Right? They say, how come you don't have a lot of clothes? I said, well, my brother's going to give me clothes. So it kind of made sense to me. So I think, I don't know. One thing, I think something that swayed because I had some medication for my epilepsy then, because I've been diagnosed then, right? So it was a pack of what they call phenobarbital. It's a barbiturate, right? So it's, so when they said, do you have anything? I said, okay, you know what? I'm epileptic. I take this medicine every day. They go like, are you okay? Are you okay? Do you know what I mean? So I think that kind of swayed them and be like, okay, we are keeping this guy here because they asked me for the triggers. I said, the doctor said, stress and things like that. I don't know if I think, so I mentioned it because I've been told that could be one of the causes. So, yeah, let me through. The flight from Zim to UK, I didn't sleep on the flight. It was an overnight flight. I didn't sleep at all. And it was cold on the plane, right? And because it was my first time on a plane, it was like no one was saying a lot of things. There was this white woman who was sitting next to me, and she said like that. So we were like, okay, that's fun. So we didn't have anything to talk about anyway, so I didn't talk to her. She was sat in my seat as well. She didn't move. I was too nervous to ask her to move. That's my seat. But it was like a bit somber. Like I was thinking, I don't want to be turned back because the issue was always people arrive at the airport and they get turned back. So I was like, I won't be turned back. I won't be turned back. That is what I was thinking the whole flight. And then one thing that terrified me was turbulence. Oh my God, people screamed. But I was being tough. I just kept quiet, but it was, bad. It was quite bad. I think it was over Zaire or something like that. We're DRC now, right? Yeah, so, it was quite bad. It was quite scary at the time. And when we arrived, I was just so nervous. I was nervous. But then I was thinking of all the money I'd paid for the flight. I didn't want to be turned back. So I think, so my focus was like, I don't want to go back and waste my money, right? I will still go back to my job. You know what? When I left, I just asked for leave, for 2 weeks leave, right? So that if I get turned back, I'll just come back and go get on with my job. I didn't tell anyone as well. That was the thing then, because like I said, culturally, there's a thing that if people know your moves, they may send some things to stop that. So had I stayed in Zimbabwe, I think I would be all right. Relatively, that's what I think, right? I think because the company I worked for, it did a lot of exports. So by the time we left, we were being paid in US dollars, right? Although some of the executives, they're quite smart, they'll say, you know what, I can exchange it for you, right? That's when the black market in the currency was sort of establishing itself. So I think I would have been, because someone I think I would have been all right, but I can't imagine do the same job for that long. So but I think I would have been okay because the company is sort of grown stronger. Yeah, it's exposed to to the Middle East and to so many African countries. But when we left, we just passed an audit to export to South Africa as well, export drugs to South Africa. So so I'll say it's because I remember when I got to UK, right? Because I was thinking, okay, so I'm gonna go to UK and make some money, and I'm gonna come back and start my own pharmaceutical company because I could see how well this company was doing, and I knew that's how they started. They were making their first product was aspirin. Aspirin is very easy to make. It's very cheap. This is why it's so cheap. It's 2 ingredients. Yeah, it's so cheap to make aspirin. So that's how they started making aspirin one time. Yeah. So now it's such a big deal. The company is such a big deal. Yeah. When I came to UK, I moved to Farnborough, right, which is a very small town in Hampshire, just about 30 minutes away by train to Waterloo, right, London. That's where I moved to, and then I was meant to live in London, so I spent a couple of weeks in Farnborough. And then I went to Romford in Essex, right, to live with my other brother who was staying there, because the thought was there are more jobs in London. It's easier to get jobs in London, right? It didn't work out in London due to like my brother's sort of family circumstance, right, with him and his wife. And that move to London was quite hard. I was there for maybe 3 weeks or something like that. It was quite hard because I was given a bus pass, like, Laurie, here's a bus pass, here's a directory. You know what a directory is, right? You don't know what a directory is?
You mean like the food?
Directory, yellow pages, yellow pages, right? Yeah. So I was given a bus pass in the yellow pages, and the home phone was there, right? I say, okay, here, look for care homes, because that was always a recommendation, right? Call them up, and if they say come for interview, here's a bus pass for a week. And look, I had gone to school with, say, white people, right, in Zimbabwe, but they were Zimbabwean white people. Now these are British people, and you think I'm just gonna give them a call. I didn't have that confidence, right? So every day my brother say, have you called anyone? Have you found a job yet? Have you got an interview? You know what I mean? And that was also compounded by him, having problems with his wife. So one morning he just say, pack your bags, and then he drove me back to Farnborough. Drove me back to Farnborough, all right? And when I came back, my other brother, he was in Australia, so I had to stay with his wife. They were nice, but I was thinking, why did I come here? Do you know what I mean? For this and that. I didn't have any money then, and I had a friend of mine who was in Glasgow, right? I called her, then she sent me £50 in posts. I didn't have a bank account then. The £50 was a Scottish pound. When I went to the post office, the lady said, "What is this?" I said, "It's a Scottish pound." Which made me so nervous, but I was like, okay, what have I been said, So, and then I found a job in nearby, a place nearby. Because Farnborough it's on the border with, Farnborough is in Hampshire, so just this Hampshire, Berkshire, Surrey. It's just like, yeah. So yeah, I found a job at a place in Sandhurst in Berkshire. Yeah, so that was my first job then. But that's how I just got to stay in that area. Funny enough, at my first job, during the interview, Um, the other woman also interviewed me was a Zimbabwean woman, right? And I said, I went to this school. I was like, oh, so you went to Kutama College? I said, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, do you know my son, Terence? Yeah, I went to school with his son. We were in the same class at one time. So that was nice, because I was like, oh, this is like my UK mom, you know what I mean, right? So yeah, so she interviewed me. Um, the interview process, that was nothing to do really. Um, the work environment, because it was a care home, right? There were quite a few Nigerians, and so people were those were doing the nursing and the care. They were all like non-British, right? And then the rest were British, and then all the residents were British, except one lady who was sort of from the Caribbean, right? So the work environment was quite strange. I thought, wait, I've moved from UK, from Zimbabwe, right? And here I am working with black people, which it wasn't a bad thing, right? But it was sort of quite confusing. Um, a little bit, and I just used to think like I had a better job back in Zim. I had a better job back in Zim, But then that when you start looking at the say like the situation in Zimbabwe, then the political situation, you start realizing that you sort of understanding like okay, maybe it's not too bad, but um, yeah, the work environment was fine. It was just normal. It was just work that I disliked, but I had to do it for money, to pay for the sky that I had and the car that I just bought. Yeah. So 2002, I remember the first time I got to my brother's house in Farnborough. He was like, "Oh, so you like music, right?" Then you put on MTV Bass. MTV Bass was one of the most amazing things that I'd ever seen. Like, what? All these videos. And in that time, like I think 50 Cent had just come up with I forgot the name of the song now. Right, Go Show it's your which one? In the club, yeah, 50 Cent's in the club, right? So all these videos that we would like, really really want to watch would like there was a music program in Zimbabwe, right? It was it was Saturday. You could watch, right? I could watch this anytime I wanted. That was so amazing. you know, we had the internet at home because previously I would go to an internet cafe, just to check my email. It was just like all these things that I didn't have, I have them here right in front of me. It was amazing, and I remember like when you stopped from the airport, just going back from the airport. When we left the airport, I was quite hungry. I was like, what do you want to eat? Okay, let's go to McDonald's. I'd only seen McDonald's on TV, right? And then they were like, we got in there, like, what do you want, right? So I hadn't slept all night. I'm hungry. I got confused by McDonald's menu. I'm like, okay, we'll get you. I don't even know what burger I had, right? But I'm like, oh, I'm in McDonald's, right? But it's just similar to any fast food that we had in Zimbabwe. But because I was in McDonald's, I thought it was something else. I don't know what it was looking at. Yeah, but it was just amazing. It was just amazing. And then there was also like a, that first day I arrived, I went to a wedding, someone's wedding party, and then there was a fight between the groom and his best man. Like, this my first day, I'm stopping a fight. Like, what is happening? you know, and, yeah. And then after that, we went to I think the fight was about. I don't know if that matters. The fight was like the groom was saying, "Oh, you're looking at my wife." That was a fight. It was just so like so stupid. Like I couldn't like understand like how is such a dumb thing? How is it happening? And then went to there's a pub. It was called Kwaseguru Road. It's just a like if you speak Shona, you understand how funny it because a guy called Rod. I don't know. I think it was Roderick. I don't know, but he had a pub That's the first time I saw cockroaches. It's like, this place is so weird. It was just so, you could hear Zimbabwe music only. You know what I mean? It was just so bizarre. But then, so it was a mix of this, like, um, people trying to connect with the Zimbabweanness, right? And also among, amongst the British things that happened here. So there was all that thing. But things I always just found it amazing. I remember I was sick. I was asked to go to the shops to buy some drinks, right? And then when I was paying, like a six pack of, was it a six pack or it was these big Fantas? And then the guy said, big bottle of Fanta, right? And then the guy at the till said, oh, you know, you can get this, buy one, get one free. And I was too embarrassed to get another one. I was like, nah, it's fine. When I got back, my sister-in-law said, why didn't you bring two? I said, I was like, we went back to get the other one. So I was so embarrassed. I felt like a child. You're like a child. Like, wait, I'm 25. How am I being led back to the shops to get, another bottle for the buy one get one free? I just thought it's an option. I saw it in the shop, but I didn't trust it, right? So I didn't buy it. I only picked one bottle when I was supposed to have two. The culture shocks. Breastfeeding, how people are so worried about breastfeeding, how women cover themselves up to breastfeed. It's just so bizarre to me, right? In Zimbabwe, a child is crying. People will say, why don't you breastfeed your child? The woman will just whip it out. No one cares. No one is bothered. No one is bothered about no one thinks, ooh, this is sexy when a woman is feeding. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how it's a taboo. It's just so strange to me that you get debates and all of that. I just never understand it. Even now, I've tried to explain it to other people, like, why do you worry so much about breastfeeding? Because now I see Zimbabwe women doing the same thing, like covering it up to sort of, I don't know, assimilating, or they're just doing the same, what's done here. Yeah. It was just so bizarre. On the bus, someone can just sit here, just sit down. No one cares because a child is, you're feeding a child. And so this is the thing, like when people talk about, say, the advanced, like advanced to who? Because in this aspect, you're not advanced, but this something, you know what I mean? You're sort of back. Yeah, so what other things, like how much people drink? How much people drink. People drink a lot. How much people drink. People drink in Zimbabwe. I think it's the conversations around alcohol. They just bore me. Like, someone sharing, oh, look, I've got this vodka here. And like, dude, so do millions of other people, all right? They drink the same thing as you are right now. Why is this a big deal? Like this excitement over it. Yeah, I think there was an element of it in Zim, but here I think it's more. I can say it's more. Because Zimbabwe pretends to be conservative, right? As in, we are like this, we don't do this, right? But here there's that expression that I'm going to have a drink. And also in here, women drink a lot. I was used to women drinking in Zimbabwe. But I was quite aware that it wasn't sort of frowned upon. I was quite used to it because I had some relatives who drank it, and I was pretty easy about drinking smoked. I was pretty easy about that. But yeah, the drinking was quite, it's a lot. But I love pubs though. Just the vibe on them. I love pubs. Right, so in 2017, I'm friends with a solicitor. She was my friend. She's my friend who's a solicitor, right? She was helping me out with immigration stuff. You know the deal. And then she said, "Oh, you know what? One evening, she just sent me a photo around 1 a.m. Right? Oh, so what do you think of this lady?" I said, "She's all right." I just sent a message back, and then she said, would you like to speak to her? I said, yeah, sure. Right? And then I was given a number. So the next day, I called this lady, her name is Nyarazai, called her, and then she said, oh, can you call me later? I'm dancing. I was like, what? Okay, I'm not going to call you then. So I didn't call back, right? And then and then my friend said, Lawrence, you haven't called the woman. I said, well, I called her. She said she was dancing. I was like, I just thought it was rude, right? And then I called her, started talking, back and forth. And then I came to, we had a date in Nottingham. I think I've got a photo. I've got a photo of us the first day we met here, right? And then you know what happens. And then she goes, yeah, you can move to Nottingham, I said, really? Really? Yeah, so that's how I got to Nottingham about 2018, yeah. When I mentioned the photo, I've got a photo in the Arrow, which was so underwhelming to me, because, like Nottingham, we've got all this thing about Robin Hood, and then there's that thing, like, really, you could do better with that. You know what I mean? I just experienced something better. And then we went to Miss Korea. I think we did, it still was existing, so yesterday. And then we went to the oldest pub, the EO trip, which just, it was nice. It was nice. Yeah, so I had a good day. We just, yeah, so that date, yeah, so yeah, what I remember from that, we've got a photo anyway. I framed it actually. Didn't actually have brought it in. I framed, yeah. That was the first sort of, because I'd done a job before where I was driving. I'd been to Nottingham for like 20 minutes and left. So that was my sort of first time to spend time, some time in Nottingham. Yeah, and then we also went to, not that same day, but this was a different day, is it Highfields Park? Which just seemed nice. I'm like, oh, this is nice. Yeah, so it was sort of, yeah, I'd spent some time sort of exploring just, bits and bits of Nottingham, of which I'm still trying to explore. This is why, yeah, I'm still trying to explore a lot more of Nottingham. Yeah, but yes, yeah, so as I said, oh, would you like to live in Nottingham? Because my the ideal situation for me is to live in London or close, not in London, but just close to London, because a lot more stuff happens in London for someone who makes films and things like that. But it's too expensive. So when I can afford a house similar to the one you have now, back then we are going back, I don't know. So my impression of Nottingham over the years, it hasn't grown that much, but I think it's because I haven't explored as much as I should, right? Because, I was always outgoing. I made lots of connections in London and things like that. And then I come here and all I do is go to work and then stay home. Because the thing about Nottingham is quite small, and you can finish the good stuff. I'm sure there's a lot more things, right? Like yesterday I discovered some other restaurants that I was never aware of. There's a restaurant called Six. I didn't know that. Because I was trying, it's my wife's birthday, so we're trying to find places. And I still don't know these things. But here in London, it's so easy because there's so much choice. But yeah, so I think I might fault for not being outgoing. I know there are people who make films here. I have not connected with them. That's on me. They're not going to come to me and say, "Hey, Lawrence, no one is going to come to me." It's me who hasn't been outgoing. So one of the things I do is I cycle a lot. So I'm cycling, sort of using it to explore the surrounding areas. But then what I do is, I explore the country, because they're easier to cycle rather than the urban areas. But yeah, there's some nice places I've seen. But I just need to, I think I need to connect more with other people. So it's mostly to do with me. Yeah, so when I moved to Nottingham in 2018, I had been in the UK for 16 years. Okay, so in that time I had lived in, like I say, Surrey, Berkshire. You know, I was in Guildford, just nice and expensive, really, really nice. And then Bracknell, right? And then Northwest London, in Colindale. Spent quite some time there, which to me, it's not all that, but because of the proximity to like to central London and all of that, it was quite handy, you know. But yeah, so it's just 16 years of all of that, living in south of England, and then I came here. So when I moved to Nottingham, I was already in filmmaking. I So I think early on, I think I applied to study at Farnborough College. So I was offered computer science, I think, something computers, and then this TV and film production, right? We just found like, that sounds interesting, right? So I went for that option. Sometimes I think I should have done the computer thing, but you know, you can always learn computers anytime, right? But my takeaway from that course that I did, right, because we did TV and film, it was quite interesting. I think my takeaway, because I think anyone can learn filmmaking anytime, right? But I sort of understood sort of the industry a little bit, like more about the industry itself, because you can learn to edit something on YouTube, pretty easy. You can do that, but there's a bit more, like say, if you want to be like in filmmaking or if you want to be in TV or on radio, okay? So yeah, so after I finished my course, I didn't make anything for a while because I wanted a nice camera, which I couldn't afford, right? And then my brother bought me one, okay, because the idea was maybe start making music videos, of which I won't make anymore. I think I made one video. Musicians are not dependable. They haven't got money to pay you. So I did make a music video a few years ago, about 2-3 years ago, but it's for a guy that I liked. I'm like, okay, yeah, all right, I can make a music video for you. Yeah, and then one of the first films I made was about postnatal depression because I like stories about just human stories. Okay, so I made that film. Then I was invited to festivals, which was like strange, right? So yeah, by the time I came here, I had made a few films. I had sort of learned. I sort of knew what I was doing. Yeah, so my family, they love it. Yeah, they love it. I think it's because they can see, you know, the kind of things I'm making. Do you know what I mean? I'm not doing something embarrassing because one of the things that drives what I do is I don't want to embarrass people who are involved in it. You know, I want them to feel proud, like, oh, we made this and this is nice, right? So I think I make good films. You know, I don't do it too often, right? Because, but I think, but my family, they're quite proud. My mom and dad, they're quite. Is it last year? Last year, when my mom had to go collect an award for me from the European Union for me on my behalf, and there was some cash that she kept, so she's gonna be proud of it. And also, I started it when I was much older. You know what I mean? I wasn't like 19, 17, 18, like I'm gonna start filmmaking. That would make some parents a bit worried about it because there's a misunderstanding of what it is. Other people will not understand it because when they think filmmaker, they think the person with the camera who's doing all of this stuff, right? The filmmaker, so to speak, right? But there's a lot more to it than being behind the camera or just being on camera. There's a lot more to it. Yeah, so my family are quite supportive. My next film, my sister helped me write the script. Yeah, helped me write the script. In my previous films, I involved my sister has always been involved. My brother as well. My wife is involved as well. So it's everyone. Yeah. So who can do stuff for me for free. Yeah. I made a film about my epilepsy, not my epilepsy, my experience of epilepsy, and my parents we made a contribution to it. It was like. Uh, it was like therapy in a way because we had never spoken about it. So now we're talking about it. I'm like, I didn't know. You never told me all of this, but they're all about trying to protect me. You know what I mean? So in a way, like I was going to make a film about my father because my father was a tailor, very talented guy, but that kind of career is he was ill. He started his own company. Then he was ill. He couldn't carry on at a large scale. So he had to do so like I wish I had learned to the craft, but he never really wanted us to learn. So I asked him, how come, right? And then he was like, he felt like people didn't respect him, so he didn't want that for me. So I was going to make a film about that, like yeah. But I think my wife went to Zimbabwe and interviewed him. He was so awkward on camera, so the footage is not usable. Yeah. So my family, yeah, they're really up for it. I'm sure. I think because they can see the things I've involved them in, it's pretty good. So they everyone wants to be part of something great, innit? Your only contribution to a country can't just be being born there, right? So we can always, I think, if you have the chance to be elsewhere, do it. Like you don't have, like I said, you don't have to move forever, but you just have to be exposed to, life somewhere else. You can always learn. Like, oh, you know what? When you look at, say, I don't know, driving, right? You drive somewhere else. Went to Indonesia, right? It was just it just seemed like chaos, but the chaos it worked. The chaos worked. It's not ideal, but it kind of you know what I mean, right? But I think even in Zimbabwe, I think there's some chaotic driving. Road conditions don't it don't help. But I think it's just being elsewhere. It can give you some aspiration to like, okay, you know what, I can do this. I can aspire to this, or maybe as a country we could aspire to this. Especially people who are into leadership and politics. I would think that if they need to be exposed to something else, see what somewhere what life is somewhere. Like I said earlier, that how it is here, you can buy a juice for £8, or even alcohol very very cheap, or you can buy very very expensive. There's always something, or try to have something for everyone. All right, just that to me, just having that perspective that I can get a car, cheap or expensive. I can find something to fit in. Just that, I think it kind of helps on our outlook of life.